Jason, thank you very much. Harley Lippman joins us tonight. He is a member of the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee. Harley, an American general once said that you win wars by killing more of them than they kill of you. But what is the number for civilians? Is it 1? Is it 10? Is it 100? 100,000? In other words, when do you stop the calculus to bomb a site, even if there is a commander there, when you know that there are so many civilians around?
Well, the best example is to speak of World War II. When the United States was attacked in Pearl Harbor, we began to mount an invasion towards Japan. We took various islands on the way, and then we bombed Japan almost back into the Stone Age. And guess what happened? They lost. And 80 years later, they still have no appetite for war. 4 generations later, there's peace. It's tragic that civilians...
Are you saying then that the calculus should be the bombing of Tokyo, in which you're right, it was bombed into the Stone Age, but literally on one night, 80,000 Japanese civilians died. Is that an acceptable cost for what happened on October 7th, the revenge, I guess, the attack on Gaza?
I don't think it as revenge whatsoever. This is called self-defense. Any nation that would be attacked that way, where not only they wanted to kill Israeli soldiers, they made it personal. They would torture an 82-year-old grandmother and made her go on FaceTime so her family could watch her being tortured. This is an existential threat to the very survival of Israel. There were 2,000 fighters that broke through the fence.
I understand that, and I think that we're mixing apples and oranges here, because no one agrees or no one thinks that what happened on October 7th was even anything in the bounds of acceptable. It was a massacre. It was a terrorist attack on Israel. The question is, what about the 7-year-old, the 5-year-old, the 4-year-old child that is also innocent in Gaza? What is the calculus on those lives lost from the Israeli side?
It's absolutely horrible and tragic that this is happening. Israel has no intention to deliberately kill civilians. And that's the distinction here. Israel is trying to go after Hamas fighters. They are responsible for putting civilians in harm's way and using them as human shields. They are responsible, not Israel trying to defend itself and defeat the enemy. The world should put the pressure on Hamas to turn over the hostages and stop fighting. The moment Hamas stops fighting and turns over the hostages, no Palestinian civilian will die. So the responsibility lies in the hands of Hamas.
Yeah, Harley, you heard me lay out this scenario that the United States lived through in Vietnam, Afghanistan, we could argue Iraq. Are we not learning from the lessons of the past? In other words, what is going to happen 10 years from now, 15 years from now, between Israel and Gaza? Are we creating a cycle that is going to be never-ending?
That's what a lot of people say, and I profoundly disagree. I go back to my example with Japan and Germany. Why is it 80 years later, now let's talk about Germany? They have no appetite for war whatsoever. And everybody thought at the time, they're so militaristic, it's in their DNA, they'll always have war. Why is it that Germany and Japan are peaceful nations 80 years later? Why? Because they were utterly and totally destroyed. They were defeated. So the only way you have closure is defeat. It's tragic and sad, but that's how wars end. The reason why wars continue in other parts of the world is we fight for partial victories. We don't fight for total victory. And when you have complete victory, you have closure. And it's very sad and tragic. It has to be that way, but that's how you end wars and conflict. And one other thing,
you heard me lay out.
If Israel didn't do it, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as you heard me lay out in the beginning, not only did we suffer casualties in Vietnam, But America lost its appetite in Vietnam. America lost its appetite in Afghanistan, which was our longest war. Are you convinced that Israel has the appetite, both in terms of money and human life, to continue this fight to the end that you say needs to be laid out in front of us?
Without a question, because the difference between Vietnam and Afghanistan is that we could lose and go home and sit and watch and get on our laptops, have espresso on our porches, and watch football and baseball games. We were basically fine. So losing in Vietnam and losing in Afghanistan did not affect American lives in the United States whatsoever. There were no terrorist activities here from Afghanistan or Vietnam or anything. But if Israel loses, every Israeli person will be slaughtered. They'll be murdered, every one of them. That's the difference. For Israel, it's an existential fight for their survival, where the United States and Afghanistan and Vietnam, as you said, was not.
So how will Israel counter the rest of the world as they see images coming in like we saw today, where there was a bomb dropped on the largest refugee center in Gaza, and the casualties are said to be staggering?
It's going to reignite and promote a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of hostility towards Israel. But Israel has no choice. It's either life or death. What are they going to do? Say, I'm sensitive to demonstrations in Paris, London, and New York, so we're not going to bomb them, and instead, we'll let them kill our civilians on a regular basis. I mean, Hamas's own charter says their total devotion, their total reason for being is the complete destruction of Israel and killing everybody there. There's no choice they have. It's either you live or die, and Israel is trying to live. I think also there's a lot of good things going on. Even though there are a lot of demonstrations, these people, as they get older, become more conservative. It's like American demonstrations during the Vietnam War. And I think if you look at support in the United States, it shows 84% of Americans support it. There was a resolution in Congress where I think it was 423 congressmen strongly voted to support Israel. There was only 10 voted against.
Hey, Harley, one question before I let you go. I've only got 20 seconds left. Is it possible to be anti-Israel and not anti-Semitic?
It used to be, not anymore, I think. Because to be anti-Israel, it's talking about their existence. What nation in the world still has to defend its right to exist? If you're anti-Israel, you're anti-Semitic. You don't think that Jews have a right to a homeland in the Middle East? Do you know the only people in the world that for 3,000 years live in the same land, worship the same God, and speak the same language? Who has a greater connection to that land or to any land than the Jewish people? It goes back thousands of years. And where are they going to go?
Harley Lippman, I thank you for being with us tonight. Member of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Harley, as always, thanks.
Thank you.